Hello everyone, welcome to the second episode of The Silent Entrepreneurs, a place where we talk with budding entrepreneurs or people who have already built their empires on how they have went about doing that, the challenges they have overcome, the hurdles they have faced, and the Amazons they have crossed. Today, we are actually celebrating the Women's Day, and being that comic is completely built on the support of ladies out there who are doing amazing, wonderful things. We have a very special guest with us today. That's Dipika Trehan, founder of Health of Women organization that works around holistic employee well-being, and is also the founder of Corporate Diva, which focuses on building women leaders. She has been awarded Top 100 Global Diversity and Inclusion Leader by ET Now, and in person applauded by Cherie Blair for her work towards building women leaders. She has also been recognized as the top woman CEO for building women leaders during this pandemic. So, welcome, ma'am. We are very glad to have you on the show.
Thank you so much.
Right. So, there's a huge whole list of awards and other mentions that you have got. But would you like to expand on some more?
No, I think you've been quite precise in highlighting a few. I think the one turning point award was being awarded as the Indian representative to Israel for 4-week on a scholarship by the government of Israel for innovation in women's health. And through that as well, my exposure towards cultural sensitization, cross-cultural sensitization happened. So that was a key one as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, of course, you have been across the breadth and span of the world, traveling around and meeting amazing people, and actually building upon the woman leadership across the world, right? So, how did this journey start?
So, for the journey to start, I think let me take you back a couple of years. I've been a very ambitious, growing up, was a very ambitious young lady at work who wanted to kind of pretty much, who had her growth roadmap in place, who had her plans right and all of that. But then life happens, and then, I had to move countries, I had to, be on a forced sabbatical because of visa issues and all of that. And also parallelly, my health was hugely compromised. So when I got back to India, I wanted to establish, no matter how small a platform, I wanted to establish a platform which gives women an opportunity to focus on their health, prioritize their well-being, and more importantly, to build a support system where a woman, no matter where she is in her professional life cycle, be it a woman graduating out of university to get her corporate ready, to emerging women leaders, to even senior women leaders who need that nudge towards segueing into the boardroom, and along with that, returning career women and women entrepreneurs, one today addresses to this entire life cycle of women professionals, very keenly taking care of their upskilling and their support needs at every given stage, which are unique to every stage. So that's what got me started, where there was a lack of a platform like that. And I think a woman's journey in particular is a little more tough than what it is to her male counterpart. And that's what led me to build women leaders.
So this is almost mainly based on your own personal life, right?
Absolutely. I think, people often fear and look down upon their pitfalls or their failures and things like that. I can proudly say that I've built a global organization on my failure. So, yes, that was the turning point where I myself experienced it both from a health perspective as well as a lack of support perspective. And that led me to build what I'm doing today.
So it's been a great 8+ years of journey, right? That's spanning like across the breadth and span of the globe. From what I've heard, you have even met Cherie Blair and met many new entrepreneurs out there, inspired many entrepreneurs out there. Right. So
it's been an 8-year journey on the social entrepreneurship aspect of it, whereas I've been in the workforce for close to 2 decades now. So, so I was, and that's where, again, one thing hugely that I would want to kind of communicate to women out there, that often we negate our sabbatical from our work experience, right? But trust you me, whether in India or abroad, more effectively abroad, when I was there, I would walk into Indian embassies there, and I would tell them that I am newly relocated to the country, and here are my skills that I bring to the table. Anything needed by the Indian embassy, where my skills could come handy in terms of HR or training and development or whatever, I'll be happy to assist and assist pro bono.
Okay.
So normally, pro bono work is not considered work, but there is immense life skills, immense leadership skills that one learns, and that's why I do not negate those years away from my work experience. I've been at work.
So 2 decades, and again, you have ventured out into the wilderness, right? Going out there and actually asking someone for their help, or even just asking for opportunity, that takes a lot of effort and guts, right?
See, opportunity, one doesn't have to ask for opportunity. One has to identify opportunity.
Yes.
At every given stage, I have, especially when I've encountered situations that have been unfavorable, there are always two ways, there are always two choices that we have. I've always chosen to identify opportunity in adversity and do what I can do towards leveraging it.
Right.
Later on, one sees that, all right, whether it flourishes or not flourishes, but that's a risk-taking appetite that I have, and I continue to do so.
Right. We always like to say the single most toughest thing to do is take that first step. Once you cross that threshold, things will work out, right? You will make them work. So building on that, I think, is one of the major goals that you have in your organization too, if I'm not wrong, right?
Absolutely. In fact, and especially since your platform is all about women and women entrepreneurs, there comes a time and space in life where you have got a good enough experience on various facets. And I personally went through a phase where I thought I could do a lot of things very well. And I thought I could contribute to a lot of areas in terms of my skills. And that's where one grapples with identifying what is my purpose, what is my focus area. Because to make things progress for you, you've got to be focused on a particular area. And I grappled with that I was probably jack of all trades at one point in time. But I think you've got to give the process some time, you've got to give the journey some time. And the journey then, and if you're committed to it, and you're open to falling, getting up, rising, and all of those risk-taking, the journey guides you towards your purpose. Let's take my journey, for example. I started off with the Health of Women Forum, which was more about employee well-being and holistic well-being and stress management. That's when I got exposed to so many women at work and realized a gap where a woman could take the ownership of her own self-growth and invest in her own growth, keeping aside any support that she gets from her profession or social ecosystem. So I would say that, instead of looking out what do I start with, just start.
Right.
Take that plunge, and if the option is not to get weighed down, then the only option is to float. So you will learn to float.
Right. So the biggest adversity you have is yourself at some point. Right?
I have experienced, yes. Yeah.
Right. And again, so it started out as H.O.W, right? And now it has expanded to Corporate Diva. And what do you feel is the goal that you wish to achieve? At what point would you say, okay, I have achieved what I set out to do, right? Is there a certain milestone that you have in mind? So
for me, I always say that life is always WIP until finally it's RIP, right? So, and in terms of achievement of goal, I can say today that I've achieved where I wanted to be, but have I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish? No, there is a long way forward. And as a vision of the work that I do, I want Corporate Diva to be a global platform where, and especially now leveraging everything is being pivoted online. So my vision for Corporate Diva is going to be that one-stop shop kind of a global platform where any woman across the globe has access to genuine, affordable, unbiased, non-judgmental guidance and support. Right. So that's where I see.
And do you see that missing in the outside world right now? Is there a lack which you are trying to fulfill that's absolutely not addressed right now?
I wouldn't wouldn't say it's missing, but I think it's existing or it's coexisting in bits and pieces.
Right.
Corporate Diva brings it all together.
Okay.
So because we address to the entire life cycle of a woman professional, so there's a lot of work going on in early startup like your work, right? There's a lot of work going on in organizations where they kind of invest into women leadership development, but there's separately a lot of work going on for entrepreneurs and returning career women.
Right.
Corporate Diva, without being industry specific, without being sector specific, because we have very little to do with their academic knowledge of their subject matter expertise.
Right.
We have a lot to do with leadership, which is an inside-out journey, and which can pan across this entire spectrum. So it's that platform which addresses to the entire ecosystem, and I see a lack of that. I wouldn't say that there isn't one, but we definitely need more work to be done.
Right. And how was it for you starting on this journey, right? What are challenges that you face, especially considering that you are a lone woman out there fighting in the world filled with male corporates, right? How was the journey for you? Any specific pain points that you felt caused you to feel like, okay, this needs to be improved and I should take this upon myself?
So I think I'm not on a war footing. It wasn't a fight.
Right.
It was a journey, and I would continue to call it a journey. Yes, there have been challenges. Every journey has their own set of challenges. My biggest challenge was that I was trying to put across a concept which at that time had a very boxed perception to it. Right from the term diva, right? I had literally walked into organizations where I wasn't allowed to even go near the DNI or the HR guys because they thought that diva means it's a fashion show for women at work, and they said, "Ma'am, humko rap walk nahi karana hai." Right? So crossing that journey, but I was determined with the fact that diva is a feeling, and every woman can own that feeling, not basis her physical appearance, but basis her credibility, basis what she brings to the table, basis her potential and the value add that she brings to the table. And that's where in my journey a lot of mentors as well advised me to change the name if it was going against my whole philosophy and ethos behind it. But I believed in it so much, and that's where, so this whole thing of, somebody saying that she's got a diva program and she's got women to walk the ramp, one has to kind of, and especially when you're moving out of boxed perspectives, you will face that challenge. I faced it, but today, Corporate Diva is a platform which is supported by Mr. Mohandas Pai, Ms. Cherie Blair, Gul Panag, Abhinav Bindra, and so many more eminent people. So definitely my belief in the name has shown results. But for that, it's been a very, very persistent journey, and not for a day did I lose confidence in my belief. That's one thing. Then again, like you said, you started up just by yourself. And yes, I started off absolutely by myself. It's been a tough journey where I had no fancy name tag of an organization or a designation behind me. So the only thing I had with me was Dipika Trehan. And it's been a journey from being, just another woman at work to establishing a presence. A lot of that stemmed from what I thought of my own self. And if I thought that I could make it, and I had something in mind which was different and which was the need of the hour, and with conviction I believed in it, Providence has made that belief come true as well.
So you're a testament to what you're doing, right? That anyone out there can be like you as well.
Well, if that's what you want to say, yes, I do very proudly stand testimony of the fact that one person is enough to create a wave which has its ripple effects, and it's very, very heartening to see that those ripples are now reaching across the globe.
So, and you also truly believe in personal branding, right? From our talks, I understood that you actually focus a lot on personal branding. Compared to just corporate building, right, of your own company.
See, personal branding, when we talk about it, a lot of us feel that personal branding means that, you're digitally marketing yourself well and all of that. A according to me, personal branding is what is the story that I have to tell. And trust you me, everybody has a story to tell. And we have all walked unique journeys.
Yes.
Most of us take it as a part of the process and keep it to ourselves and only highlight what has gone right and the bigger picture. But I chose to, even if you read my blog, I chose to go down to threadbare, right, and talk about it and write about it. I had nothing to hide, right? And that's where it today, yes, you can say that it's a personal branding story, but for me, it was just journaling my own journey. For me to look back and see that how has this journey been for me, and for the audience, for the people to understand that what goes behind the making of something. Things just don't shape up like that. There's a struggle, there's a journey behind it, and to bring forth that journey. So personal brand, like you rightly said, is important, but I think there can't be a better personal branding, kind of strategy than authentically owning and giving out your story.
Right.
Because that's going to be unique.
True. Because most of the people out there, it's a lot of fake things going on in the world, right? Social media has allowed you to build on stories that might be true, might not be true, and no way to verify it. So when people see that authentic feel to it, right, they recognize, okay, this is a person whom I can trust. And I think that's what you're building on here, right? For people who haven't seen, please do go check out her blogs. I, for one, read it like whole night. I was sitting up at 2 just reading about all about you, right? And it was very interesting. Didn't blink for a minute there.
Thank you.
So it's been quite a journey for you. But what would you say to the budding entrepreneurs out there who are looking to jump into the ocean? How do you go about doing it, right? What is your tips and tricks that you feel that they should know, and what are the pitfalls they should avoid at the start?
Sure. I love the word ocean that you've used, because there is something that I personally live by, is that according to me, it's never a drop in the ocean. It's always the ocean in a drop. So believe in yourself, believe in what you're doing. How convinced are you about what you're doing? Right. And you have to give it time. No success story happens overnight, right? Sometimes people come back to me and say, also, for 8 years you've done enough. You've done very well and things like that. But it's not been 8 years. It's been 20 plus years. That seed was planted. It's almost like, any success story for me is like that bamboo tree. That, for the first 5 years when you plant the sapling, it doesn't grow. It doesn't grow. And around everywhere you will see that 5 years, those shrubs will become literally trees. And you're still there, it's not growing. And the moment it crosses about 5 years, this thing, right? That's when you see it shoot up. And then it shoots up nice and tall. But you've got to believe in those 5 years of not shooting up, because that's the time it's building its roots. So for our budding entrepreneurs, one is believe with conviction what you have set out for. Do you believe in it? Forget anybody else. Would you buy your product? That's one thing. Second is, like he said, that personal brand part of it. Today, we're such a privileged lot of us, because we have so many free apps, so many free tools, like your blogs. When I started writing my blog, there's so many platforms that offer free blogging, this thing. So don't worry about you always have to have the .com to start with. You can have something with a dot, something and com, right? But at least start documenting. That's one thing. Leveraging apps is another thing. Keep on telling your story. Good, bad, ugly. And own it. And then slowly you build a network. Interact with people. Now, networking again is something that, people say that, okay, let me go to that networking event, I will meet 100 people and that's going to be awesome. Networking is not just meeting people. And today, more so when you're not able to meet people, networking is just going out, learning from others, and staying connected with them.
Right.
And that's what is going to translate into effective networking.
Yes.
You can have 25, 30, 40,000 followers on LinkedIn. Not one converts. That's not networking for me. Right? I have just about 10K followers on LinkedIn.
9.8. Yes.
9.8, right? You've done your homework well. But I know for sure when things like the Global Summit came into being, or anything where I needed that space to reach out and have people stand by me, I had my network stand by me.
True.
So you got to keep the bigger picture in mind and take small steps towards it.
So there were two key takeaways here, right? First, I loved what you told about it being a journey of 20 years. It's true. I mean, you have all these success stories coming in, and people love reading those success stories. They don't realize how much struggle goes behind them, right? Especially in terms of not just one company. For example, Kunal Shah, if you take, he's running Cred right now, and just over a month, it's shot somewhere, right? The valuation is in billions. But it's been a journey of multiple experiences. He has had free charge. He has had prior experience that has built up to this. And now he's at a point where he can just go and he knows the ecosystem in and out, and he can just build on that, right? So that experience does count a lot.
It does count a lot. I'll tell you, I was in a space where you were qualified from the ACE institutions of the country. You were doing well as a professional, and you were in a foreign land.
Right.
I was in Moscow for 5 years. One didn't know the language. The temperatures were a whooping minus 30, minus 40. I was raising 2 children up at that time.
Right.
Literally from one diaper to the other diaper, from one meal to the other meal, and then both of them throwing up and all of that. And we don't value all the learnings that we get from that phase. We only remember the lows, how miserable I felt. What did I learn? I learned in a foreign land without knowing the language, bringing up 2 children, acclimatizing them to minus 30, minus 40 degrees temperatures, and yet doing your chores that you had to do, be it grocery shopping and things like that. So I learned Russian language. I went to the Moscow University. I couldn't sign up for the full-time course there because I had 2 babies. So I spoke to a professor there. She believed so much in my hunger to learn. She said, okay, after my lectures are done, I'll come to your house and teach you Russian.
Right.
And then you give your examination for the language. And I did that. I was in touch with the Indian embassy.
Right.
So this whole thing of, how do I make it happen? You just have to step forward, tell your original story,
right.
And not everybody will believe it, but whosoever believes it, latch onto it, leverage that, and learn from them.
Right.
And now that's where also I focus a lot about the economic importance of a woman at home. You look at how colossal the amount you've got to spend when it comes to caregiving, when it comes to nurturing your play schools, your nannies, your nurses, and all of that. And if you're doing it yourself, one is that you're bringing up children on your own with your set of values, and second is so many economic benefits, to it, which are undermined.
Right.
So don't undermine that. And I think you have to be very clear in your communication to your family.
Right. Especially the family support is extremely pivotal, I'm guessing, right? Not just guessing, of course it would be pivotal. How has that been in your own journey?
So in my case, since I was, my in-laws and my parents are based out of Delhi, and I've never been in Delhi for the past 20 years.
Okay.
So when you say support, right? So when you say support,
Right.
I always had zero support from the family. Of course, they were visiting and all of that. But I learned at a very young age to create support wherever I was. And that happens when you communicate and when you trust.
Right.
So when I was, wanting to upskill myself, let's say for the language class or whatever, I would tell my friend that I have this lecturer coming for an hour. Would you watch over the children? Right? So she would say, great, I'll just, even my kids are of the same age, so we can just have a play date with them. And I utilize that time to go for my classes.
Right.
There were times where my professor was in, but I wasn't in because one of my child was unwell. But they understand. Worst case, you pay transport or damages for that thing, or you get charged for that session. That's about it, but life doesn't stop. So I've learned to create a support system wherever I have been planted and replanted and uprooted and replanted or whatever. But again, one mustn't count anybody as a given support. Your parents are aging. They can have fitness issues, they can have wellness issues, they can have various diseases that may not keep them that energetic to take care of children. You can be in different atmospheres altogether, right? So don't count on support, that if I get support is when I start. Start and build support.
Right. So life throws you curveballs. It's always there. You need to just keep going and be prepared for those, right? Of course, it doesn't mean that you don't take precautions or don't work on them previously itself. But
no, and do your homework well.
Yes,
right. So let's say if I want to, I may have been in a corporate, whatever, a manager or a leader or whatever, and I've had to have this, go through this phase of sabbatical, or I want to move out and become an entrepreneur, and I want to do soap making. You better know the ABCs of soap making and what can go right and what can go wrong and whatever, right? That there's no shortcut to it.
True.
Right. So if today, if I'm talking so much and so passionately about women leadership development, it's because I have done my homework right. I have spent hours and hours studying data on what the World Economic Forum data is, on what the Harvard Business Review data is, on what McKinsey reports on women leadership is, where is the gap, what needs to be done, right? And how do I correlate that to my journey? How do I associate it to all of that? And that's where I'm out here. I can't say that I felt a lack of support system and that's why I'm here to build a support system. And support with what? Right? So your homework has to be done. Nobody should be able to question your capabilities, your credibilities. And that's a very strong space to be in.
The age right now, unfortunately, has shifted to wherein people just take the liking of the word entrepreneurship, right? Of course, it's amazing that we have kids like 21 years old. Last podcast, we had a person who's setting up a shop in Church Street, just a single sandwich he sells. And he sells out almost every day, just a single sandwich. The conviction there, and he has just ventured out, right? He's showing the people out there, the people behind him, how it needs to be done. And he's just 21, right? Age is not a matter now, but you need to be sure about what you're doing and you need to do your homework before venturing in. People love to fantasize about entrepreneurship. There are lots of ups and downs. The experience accumulated over years, it becomes what matters in the end, right?
And also when you're talking about entrepreneurship, right? A very valid point that you spoke about was that there's so many people talking about it. It sounds very fancy. I'm my own boss. I work my own hours and things like that. You've also got to decide that is it a stopgap hobby or is it a sustainable business that you're building? And your vision has to be accordingly. So, okay, I'm on a sabbatical for whatever reasons, for health reasons or whatever. That's why I want to do soap making. So you have those 2-3 years of soap making in hand and then you can still be very successful in it. But if you're saying that no, soap making is my passion and I want to make soaps and organic soaps or whatever, right? Then you've got to look at it for a long stance and hold at it for a long stance. Because if you don't, then those years of effort completely gets wiped out.
They have stats for this. They say 2 or 3 years, if you manage to hold on to this, right? Hold on to your passion, hold on to what you believe in, things will scale from there. Your efforts will start showing results. But 2 or 3 years in terms of entrepreneurial journey is very tough, right?
It is, and it's very fancy talking about funding and all of that. But you've got to see that how financially, economically viable are you for somebody to invest in you? Would you invest in yourself?
Yes. That's the biggest question.
That's the biggest question.
As soon as you can answer that, you have answers for almost
and have you invested in yourself?
Right.
So if you can answer those questions, that would I invest in what I'm doing and do I feel that's credible enough? And have I already invested or not? So if you've put in your money, then you know that you're going to go after it, right? And are you building something where tomorrow at a later date, if somebody came to you to put your money in, would you put your money into something like that? If no is the answer, you need a lot more work to be done. If yes is the answer, then keep on going and then forget about the money coming in. It will come in. If you've got a great product, if you're solving a problem, if you're giving a solution, there will be takers for it.
Quality over quantity, right? So you have now established Corporate Diva to 12 plus countries, right? How has the transition been, right? So you used to focus completely on offline sessions. You have basically a cohort system. Actually, before we get into how scaling has happened, would you actually love to expand on the cohort system of what you're doing in Corporate Diva?
So as I said earlier also, Corporate Diva solves a very simple problem of a platform for support and upskilling needs of a woman professional, no matter which trajectory she is in her professional life cycle. So that's done, as you rightly said, through cohorts. But it is not limited to cohorts. The range is from, say, as I mentioned earlier as well, right from university classroom to corporate boardroom. That entire journey is being addressed to. The range of the cohorts range from, I think, about 2 days to 3 months. The value that we bring is that beyond a learning module, one is none of our modules are automated.
Okay.
They are all live modules, right? Second is it's not open for anybody and everybody to just walk into it. You can register for it, but we have a very selective registration process. So you selectively onboard it.
Okay.
And a lot of that depends on how bad you want to be there. How bad do you own your growth, right? And the third is that once the cohort is over, you automatically become a part of the Corporate Diva tribe, which is that support group, a corporate sisterhood kind of a support group for women at work, where you become each other's champions, you become each other's cheerleaders, you guide each other, you mentor each other, and you build each other. So your journey up and above is not alone. While you're traveling up, you're pulling someone along with you. And that's where you will see more of us there in leadership and decision-making positions. It's no more a lonely journey.
So basically, this is a very selective group. But how was it when you started it out? How was the response out there among the crowd? Because right now it's a cynical world, right? If you tell someone that, okay, I'm doing this for free, no one will believe you, right? Getting in people, spending money for themselves is a very hard thing to do, right? So how was that journey? How was the starting point? I am especially curious about that because the starting point is always the toughest one, right?
For us, the starting was fairly easy.
The network you have built over years?
Not really, because that's when I newly moved to Bangalore. Okay. My network wasn't that strong then. But the word diva attracted a lot of people, right? And the start was not that difficult. In fact, for my first ever cohort, I had and my batch size, I freeze it at about 18. I had 16 participants for the first cohort itself. Okay. The journey from there on was tough. That, okay, now you have brought in this set of people. You have given them that value. Now what is important is how do you sustain and build onto that? And trust you me, first time sometimes just happens by fluke, by not that much of effort. I won't say that it wasn't effort at all, but it wasn't that tough also. Right? But the journey from there on to evolve, to keep adding value, to sustain, and like you rightly said, to have people and more so women invest in something called leadership growth and development. One would understand that if you ask them to invest in a ring or a piece of jewelry or a sari or things like that, where they see a tangible benefit in front of it, right? But leadership is not something which comes, all right, here is my trophy of leadership kind of a thing. It's an ongoing evolution journey. So that's been the tough one. And we've, with God's grace, been able to add that much of value where women realize the worth of investing in themselves.
Right.
Though it's still a struggle to make women understand to invest in her growth.
Right.
But once she does, and with the credibility of the platform behind now for so many years,
Right.
that's something that we want more and more to be done.
Right. Again, you are being very humble when you say with God's grace. It's always what I have found from personal experience. Any luck associated always has a precursor with some action that you have taken. It's always something that you do that brings in that luck component. Because without you doing anything, luck will now just come in, right?
In fact, luck, I don't count it as a component at all.
Right.
I'll be honest, I don't count that as this thing, because yes, like you rightly said, that it can't just happen like that. There have been times where one has faced deceit. When I was initial, as an entrepreneur, all I knew was this is the work that I want to do. I had little or no knowledge about how to get it organized, what are the logistics behind it, and all of that. So I had people coming and cheating me worth of lakhs, right? I had people coming and on purpose putting so much of pressure that no, Diva is like a this, Diva is like a that, so that I could give up on my concept and they could grab the concept and build up on it. I've faced all of that, right? So it's not an easy journey. You will have, and that's where your self-belief comes into play. That's where your network and your support comes into play. Because I was almost on the verge of giving up and saying that maybe I'm not doing something right. I'm over-believing in myself. But then by then I had built this tribe of women, and who said that, how many testimonials do you want? I'll tell you how I have benefited. I'll tell you how I've benefited. This is what I have done at work from Corporate Diva. This is what Corporate Diva has done to my life. When all of that came together is when they picked me up and said that you're not giving up on it. So you will, and every person does go through that journey where besides being on the right side of the track, they are made to feel that they're worth nothing. So that either they give up and the competitors progress, or they give up and their entire concept is snatched and built up by somebody else. And I was in that vulnerable situation, but the tribe didn't let me give up.
That's a wonderful tribe that you have built then.
Touch wood, yes. And that happens only because of the authenticity that's gone into it. No put-ups, no facades, nothing at all. You've come here, have we been able to add value? Have we been able to make a difference in your life? Have we been able to make you believe more in yourself? And have you been able to translate that in a professional scenario? Have you given back something back to your organization? If you've got that whole journey of tangibility right, then obviously people will come back and stand by you.
Once you have that value, people will come in. Right? The value is the first step. Once you build that value, things will start falling into place.
See, because for us it's not a number game, no?
Right, exactly.
I'm not playing those numbers that I've onboarded 1,000 women, 10,000 women, 2,000, 5,000 women. I've impacted 50,000 plus women, but they've all been through 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, and that's how they've built up. So we've got to stop running behind numbers. We've got to start running behind impact, because numbers will go up and down, but your impact, if you've genuinely created, will always back you up. And that's been my learning.
And now you have expanded to over 12 plus countries. Right. So let's come to that part. How have you actually gone from offline to a community where everything is online? Right. COVID has brought in many changes, and for you yourself, it means online presence of Corporate Diva. Right. So how did that transition happen? And
that's a very interesting one. That's why it brings a smile to me. Again, it was challenging the status quo. I myself was a believer of impact happens only in an offline scenario. When two people sit together, you're reading each other's body languages. I'm picking up vibes. Are you connecting with me or not connecting with me, and all of that. None of that happens in an offline, in an online scenario. So when in Jan 2020, we were in presence in terms of we were in Bangalore and Delhi, and I was working on Mumbai and Hyderabad to be launched. So 2 cities pretty much, or maximum 3 cities in presence, and 1 or 2 in the pipeline. And then COVID happened. So I was like, what do we do? Should we take a step back and just wait for this whole thing?
To
Because
pass.
according to me, it had to be offline and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the team came together.
Mm.
And they said that, Deepika, we have nothing to lose. So why not pivot online
Right.
and see how it works for us?
Mm-hmm.
It will be like a scale for us also to understand that
Right.
can impact happen in an online setup?
Mm-hmm.
Does it match up to the quality of impact that we've set standards for?
Right.
And then let's take a call.
Mm-hmm.
We were all, how the world was, absolutely free at that time. So we said, great, let's pivot online. Let's see.
Right.
That risk appetite is important.
Right.
And we had nothing to lose.
Mm-hmm.
So we said, great, we'll pivot online.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if it goes well,
Mm-hmm.
it gives us more work to do through the year.
Right.
If it doesn't go well, we'll have to wait and let's plan something for the times when this gets over.
Mm-hmm.
And we launched our first cohort
Mm-hmm.
online.
Mm-hmm.
And that's now termed as CDX because it's an extension of the CD program.
Right.
We were able to execute exactly how we execute our offline this thing. In fact, my
With the same
mentor,
impact?
same impact, my mentor who's a tough guy in
Mhm.
terms of, complimenting,
Mm-hmm.
right? He will always make you push for more. He turned around and said that, and he witnessed those first cohort himself, and he says, Deepika, and I was like, things have gone wrong and we've just kind of lost it kind of a thing. And he said, Deepika, I want to tell you one thing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel it was an online cohort. I felt as if I was in that conference room with the way we've been doing the cohort so far, and I could connect with everything that was done in terms of learning in those 2 days online. And I had goosebumps. I said, my God, the one who's toughest to kind of come up with a compliment, if he has said that, that means we've been able to successfully create an impact. And in the first cohort itself, CD with the reputation that it carries, we had international participants. So we actually had women from the US log in for the Indian Standard Time cohorts, stay up against the clock all night just to be a part of the Corporate Diva leadership lessons.
That's wonderful. I mean, that's very rare in India.
So when that happened is where this entire pivot happened. And then we landed up doing, I think, work that we hadn't done put together for the past 2 years, what we did in the COVID times.
Right.
So we multiplied one cohort after the other, one cohort after the other. We launched a new 3-month program for senior women leaders also. We've executed those as well. And then, came to a point where, again, we were sitting and discussing that cohorts are going well. How do we now leverage this whole wide ocean of people that we have access to? And that's where I said that, okay, this is the time we need to use technology to our benefit. And we're now going to think beyond. So we started planning a space where we said that now is the time. We've had enough of conversations on leadership development, diversity, inclusion in our social professional ecosystems in a domestic setup.
Right.
How do we take the wave outside? And that's when we planned the Global Summit, which had 21 experts coming in from 12 countries across the globe, including Abhinav Bindra, Cherie Blair, Mohandas Pai, Gulpanag.
Right.
They all signed up for it, and we just concluded the 2-day summit, which was huge because we had 700 participants from across the globe, from 17 countries logging into that summit.
Right.
And that's how we leveraged, the silver lining of connectivity in the dark cloud of pandemic. And currently, as we talk, the team is working on connecting with people across the globe to come up with cohorts exclusively for their time zones, because we realized that it was tough for those women from the US to stay up all night to be a part of our cohorts in the Indian Standard Time. So for entrepreneurs out there, it's taken just 12 to 14 months to pivot from 3-city presence and planning for 2 more cities to 12 country presence.
And that to 700 people.
700
is a
people.
massive number for a conference. Right, especially online. I can just imagine the numbers crunching behind in your team, them putting out stats and fixing things. And,
but it wasn't that crazy. It was quite nice because it was something new that even we were working on.
Right.
And the summit is available on YouTube as well. Those who want to see that address to people coming in from the lengths and breadths of the globe to talk about important things that a woman goes through in her life cycle, from the imposter syndrome to biases and stereotypes to men as allies for women's development. Because I believe that progress cannot be isolated to a gender.
True.
It is a hand-in-hand journey. And then to have women senior coaches come up. Then we spoke about the economic importance of diversity for organizations. And just the day of the summit, I landed up reading an article which said that the gender gap to date has costed the globe $70,000 trillion or $70 trillion.
Huge number.
Huge number. And that's where today we're not talking about giving a favor or doing a favor for women leadership development. We're talking economic importance. We're talking in the next 3 years adding $3 trillion to the economy by the presence of women and what they bring to the table. So we're talking facts and numbers.
Right. And we believe, at least I truly believe, the day that feminism is not required anymore is the day that we have actually progressed as a society.
Yeah, I'd love to call the work that I do is building leaders and not women leaders. But till then, I proudly say that building women leaders, because I'm not just putting this up. Go to any statistics globally, pick up a McKinsey report, pick up a World Economic Forum report, you have the numbers there.
Especially the McKinsey report, it's so extensive.
Yeah.
I took a whole day just reading that. And the numbers are pretty mind-boggling, as you just put it, right?
And it is not an Indian problem only.
Right.
It is a global problem.
Right.
There is global underrepresentation of women at work.
Right. And again, you are coming in there, providing the place where people can grow, and hopefully this impacts, and hopefully we'll see you out there more and more, right?
You definitely see me out there more in terms of making a lot of voices heard.
Right.
Definitely, I'm working towards that. My team is working towards that, and I think it's become an agenda, a mission. Till now we were in this small little, kind of pond, thinking that whether we're doing fine or not. But when we compare it to the larger global ecosystem, we realize we're not alone in this. So all the more reason for the voices to be heard and the difference to be made.
Right. And there's a whole group out there just waiting for you to drop in, right? Give them an opportunity.
I hope so. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I hope so. But I'm not scared, I love that saying which says that I know what I bring to the table, so I'm not afraid of eating alone. So even if it's a walk that I have to walk alone, I will, because I believe in it.
Self-belief, in the end, it all boils down to that, right?
Yeah, but again, self-belief backed by homework.
Right.
Can't discount that.
Yeah, definitely can't. Right. And again, you threw in some big names there, Cherie Blair especially. I mean, what was the story behind that? How did that even happen? I mean, that itself is very huge.
So Cherie Blair has something called the Cherie Blair Foundation for Women in Business, and it's a free mentorship program. And back in 2016 is when I was a mentee on that platform. And CBF for the first time ever was coming to India in 2017.
Okay.
So when they were coming, they did their survey, and they wanted to have some mentees interact with Ms. Blair herself. And I happened to be the only mentee who got an opportunity to sit on the panel with Ms. Blair because of the work that I was doing.
Right.
So back then I was even a smaller known or lesser known name, and CD was still in the process of evolution, which even currently it is. But when you do the work right, you don't really. We've not invested in marketing to date.
Okay.
We've not had or negligible marketing budgets. It's only and only the work that is spoken, and we've done that right, and that's where it's coming to the forefront. So when I reached out to I just wrote a mail to Cherie Blair that this is the kind of summit that we are planning and all that. Go ahead, you have my support. I have a commitment for that day. I will not be able to show up in person, but I will send a recorded video for your summit.
Right.
And that's what happened with Mr. Mohandas Pai as well. I had never known him or never met him earlier. I just wrote him a mail with the summit, right? In 5 minutes, I got a response and said, I'm on for it. Count me in.
Okay.
And, and then was the tougher part, was to then do the homework on the statistics of the data that he had worked on.
Right.
To study all that data and then bring up the highlights of his data points. So a lot of work goes in, but yeah.
It's all experience that builds in, right? Now you have the experience of organizing on a world level, right? And you have now ventured into online, and especially online, that will help you grow, reach out to the many people out there, right?
And I believe that even if things go back to normal and all of that, I think the world for a while is going to continue on a hybrid model, for sure, if not a completely online model.
I mean, many companies have now shifted to work from home completely. I mean, even if COVID gets over, they realize the impact that also has. Right? COVID has brought in some good changes overall.
We were spending so much of money in flying people across and boarding, lodging, F&B and all of that to organize a summit like this. We would have spent like a bomb on it. And this happened what? On Zoom. Right? All we did was to upgrade it to a webinar account. And we had the whole world without the travel, without the F&B, without the boarding and lodging. There's so much of cost. And carbon footprints.
True.
Right? So, environmentally better as well.
Sustainable.
Yeah.
And also that now it's at a stage wherein people are realizing that online doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have that connect, right? You can build in that connect. As you mentioned, your advisor himself not being able to tell like as good as offline situation. Online, it will bring in more and more
earlier what used to happen was, let's say a video like this, right? You would have needed those fancy lights and fancy equipments and all of that, right?
True.
You can go to my LinkedIn profile. Not a single video has had all of that tamjam of the logistics. Because today the world is absorbing data which is relevant, content which is relevant. Gone are the days of the frills. So you don't have to be in a studio setup, you don't have to be with the lights, camera, action kind of a setup to have a conversation. You can just pick up your smartphone, film yourself, express your thought with all genuineness, with all authenticity. Nobody is bothered about how you're, because you should be decently shown up. But it's okay if it flickers a little, it's okay if it's not HD quality. How relevant, how authentic, how impactful is the content? And if you're providing that, the world is your stage.
The value that bring you in the end. So again, our setup here is just basically 2 cameras for people out there. Right? Hope you don't mind the bad qualities. It's going to stay like that for some time at least.
No, that's why I'm a huge promoter of startups with an intent. And that's the reason why I took out time from my schedule to be here, because you all are developing a platform for women entrepreneurs. A lot of them are homepreneurs. And I think they need the right kind of nudge and the right kind of platform to at least get started on the work that they dream of, and hopefully
even this platform, this Silent Entrepreneurs, how it started was because we met so many amazing people out there. I mean, just 2 months and the number of people we have met and the passion in them is just, it's amazing, right? I feel my face flushing right now when I just talk about them because it's that amazing. And we felt that there's a need for voices to be heard out there, right?
But now that adds on your responsibility of sustainability of their dreams.
Yes.
That's
we realize that's something that we have taken up, but we hope to live up to that, aspirations. And it's been wonderful just talking to you.
Pleasure is mine.
Again, an inspiration on how women as general can go forward and build up a reputation for themselves, but also inspire other people to do amazing things out there. Right?
Thank you so much. If that's a message that you're carrying forward, that means a lot to me, because as I said, just stand up for yourself, start up for yourself, believe in yourself, negate away anything that you can count on as support or anything, because Start with yourself, count everything else as a bonus. You get it, great. You don't get it, your journey continues.
Right.
And that's the way I've built whatever little I have. And then, of course, there's miles to go.
Beautifully put. Right. Nothing more to add on that. That's about it. Right. So again, thank you for coming on to the show. We'll be ending the session here. Thank you
So much. Thanks.